What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Nail That Tone, a series that's all about helping you guys achieve some of the most legendary tones of all time. In this episode, we're talking about the legendary Black Album from Metallica. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about as always, so let's get into it. So we're talking Metallica this week and the Black Album. And the first thing, as always, with the Nail That Tone series is we're talking finger tone. So this week in finger tone, the thing I really want to talk about and highlight is the importance of attack. By attack, I mean the way we pick the guitar strings and we play the particular riff. Attack is important when we're talking about this riff because the riff itself is pretty simple. Since we're in drop D for this song, if we play with that big attack, we're really highlighting a lot of deep and low frequencies that we don't want to highlight. We don't want to highlight these frequencies because these are frequencies that are highlighted by the bass guitar, and we don't want to be playing in that kind of frequency and really taking up a lot of that sonic space that the bass is there for. To highlight this point, I'm going to set the amp with a very exaggerated V, and I'm going to attack the strings really hard and really try to get as much bass frequencies as possible so you can hear that woofiness that I'm talking about that you really don't want in your recording. And then I'm going to set the amp a little bit more mildly the way I would suggest doing it and have a nice attack that will give you a much better recording. So now we're talking about the gear that was used on the Black Album. The bulk of my research really consists of watching the documentary A Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica, which is available on YouTube for you guys to watch. During the documentary, we get some really cool insights about some of the band's influences, some of the styles that they were going for, how some of the songs were created, as well as some of the gear that was used. For gear, we clearly see that Metallica was, again, of course, using their signature Mark II C++ amplifiers, as well as the Mesa Boogie Mark IV. We also see Metallica using several different types of Marshall amplifiers and other rack units that were popular at the time. From scouring different forum sites as well as getting into some of the old magazine interviews, I do get some insight from Bob Rock about what was used. From the information that I was able to gather again from the actual video and from some of these interviews, is that the core of the sound really was still the Mesa Boogie Mark II C++, as well as some of the, again, newer boogie stuff that was out at the time, as well as, of course, mixing in some of that Marshall stuff that Metallica has always liked to use. So when it comes to cabinets, we can see them using, of course, the classic Marshall 4x12s, as well as some cool Mesa stuff. So for cabinets, I'm assuming that's what was used, at least for the main rhythm tones. So when it comes to the guitars, what I mostly saw James Hetfield using or tracking and playing were his ESP Explorer type guitars with, of course, his EMG active pickups. So when it comes to the gear that I used, the core of my sound, of course, was the Mesa Boogie Mark II C++. I don't have my Mark II C+ with me actually today to show you guys my exact settings because I actually left it at my other studio, so I forgot to shoot some footage of the exact settings that I used. But I can tell you that they were pretty similar to what you will see in my Mesa Boogie Mark IV. So the core of my sound was one left 2C+, one right 2C+, and down the middle I had the Mark IV sound dialed pretty similar to the Mark II C++. So for cabinets, the main core cabinet sound for the 2C+ was this 1x12 custom cabinet that I have that has an EV speaker. I guess it's a speaker that was used by Mesa Boogie at the time, and I'm pretty sure in the Mesa 4x12s and 1x12 combos, they were pretty much the speakers that were used and sold with the original Mark II C+ and Mark III amplifiers. And for the Mark IV sound, I actually had my Mark IV connected to my other Marshall cabinets, which has Celestion T75s. For microphones, I used my SM57 again and just placed it in a nice place where I felt I got a nice dark sound, but also with some good brightness as well. So for this particular video, I used, again, my trusty Music Band Majesty, which has some good high output pickups, which are perfect for any kind of metal tone that you want. When it comes to other gear that we can use to try to achieve this sound, I would recommend using any high gain amplifier. Since we're talking about Mesa Boogie and the core sound of Metallica at the time was Boogie. Boogies, of course, ever since the 2C came out, are very high gain amplifiers. So I would recommend using anything that has high gain, anything that has an EQ, which can help shape your sound, or running an EQ in the loop is always going to be very helpful. And scooping a lot of those mids and boosting some of those low end and high end frequencies will help you get that kind of traditional Metallica sound. And when it comes to cabinets, again, I recommend using anything that sounds good to you and get you a good quality sound. And when it comes to guitars, the only thing I would recommend is, again, anything that stays in tune well, and of course has some good high output humbucker pickups, so we can get that classic metal sound. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope that you liked this episode, and if you did, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, check out some of the other episodes of Nail That Tone series, and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel, because we release videos like these on a weekly basis. So hopefully guys, we'll see you in the next video.